by the way.
What was that, man? My bad, Matt.
I'll tell you later.
All
I don't want the world to know.
right.
We're now live again.
All right, we're live again. I'm sorry. I apologize sincerely from the bottom of my heart and soul for that. Yeah, it's pandemonium around here fairly regularly.
Yeah. So you were like on television recently. What was that all about?
I've done. I'm definitely. I definitely enjoy fucking performing, and whether it be at a protest or an action or arguing with right wing fucks, or I do love doing stand up comedy. But also a part of performing is for years, my girlfriend's family does a lot of karaoke during the holidays or birthday parties or when they have any type of celebration. So they're a more relaxed, conservative type of family, but it's very much fun to show up. And I used to do a lot of karaoke back in the day, so it's easy to learn some of these songs and then just fucking have a blast and have a hell of a time and keep everybody laughing and being a fool. So they watch that show on TV Estrella. It's like an American Idol version of or everybody's got America's Got Talent type of thing. Um, and I went over to her house. I don't really have TV, so I'm not watching TV. Most of the shit I do is YouTube and very rarely Netflix. But even then, they're watching that show, and then they're like, "Yeah, you need to go on there. You need to go on there." And I jokingly told my girlfriend, I was like, "Yeah, let me know when the auditions are, and then we'll go. It would be
Yeah.
fun. It would be fun."
Yeah.
And then she told me like a day or two later, she's like, "Hey, auditions are like in a week and a half." I was like, "Shit, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting auditions like 2 or 3 months from now.
Yeah.
Figure out what I'm gonna do." But I'm like, "All right, let's go." And I went, and it was downtown LA. It was in the back warehouse area of an Adriana's Insurance, and when I showed up there, I was one of the first people to get there, and I was like, all right, I know what song I'm gonna sing, but I'm gonna probably try and do it a little more serious. And then when I started seeing who was showing up, and I saw that there were some people that were really talented, and then there were some people that were not so talented, and then there were some other people that were just kind of like characters. Once I saw that everybody was just doing whatever the fuck they wanted, I was like, oh, okay, I don't necessarily have to sing well. I just have to be entertaining. And once I realized I have to be all I got to do is be entertaining, I'm like, oh, this will be fucking fine then. And I
Yeah.
did my thing. They called me back. Um, I went out to downtown, but they had us there. It was in Burbank where they had their studio. They had us there. I think I was like second or third to last going. It was already midnight. It was already close to midnight, and everybody had been there since 9 in the morning. Um, because I had a bunch of customer work, I told them that I couldn't make it in the morning, and then I just kind of figured that I lost my opportunity, and they called me. They're like, "No, we really want you. You could be here by 6, then we could still get you on." I was like, "All right, we'll do that shit." So I went on, I did my thing, and then they told me that they still had to film the intro video. So they're like, yeah, we still have to film the intro video. We'll do that in a few weeks. We'll come out to you. I was like, all right, cool. And I think it was like a month later, they called me to do the intro video, and we set up a meeting to meet in downtown Ventura. They had found a spot online or something like that. It was at the Cross, which is a spot that like high schoolers go to make out and shit, and then people go to look over the ocean. But that same day or the next day that we were supposed to meet is when the governor shut everything down. So they called me and told me that they weren't going to be doing the intro video. They're like, everything's on hiatus right now. We don't know what's going to happen. So we'll let you know where we could pick up where we left off when all this blows over. And that's it. I thought out of sight, out of mind. Nobody's ever going to see it. It's not going to be on TV. I kept it to myself. I was going to have it be a surprise. And then 2 weeks ago, people started tagging me on like a Wednesday night. They're like, "Oh shit, it's fucking Leo!" And I was like, "Fuck! I wish I would have known, so that I could either record it or prepare or let everybody know or tell people or something." But it went well. I had a blast. I had a
Well, you're
blast.
standing in that line, and you're saying like some people here are very talented, some people aren't talented at all. How did you end up gauging your own talent level in that scenario?
If there's I knew that I didn't. I knew that my strongest shit was like I don't just sing. I'm quick on the draw. I'm quick to talk shit. I'm quick to crack jokes. Like I knew that I wasn't gonna. I knew that I was the whole package of what it was of just me being me was gonna be the fucking thing. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not gonna, nobody's gonna give a shit about how well I sing or don't sing. I know that I understand that the value that I brought to the situation was the package of just me being me and me, yeah, just it's something that's been honed and sharpened after years of a variety of scenarios. I'm very comfortable in those spaces, very
Yeah.
comfortable in those spaces, so that it made it a natural thing.
So before you got cut off, I thought maybe like, oh man, he's just dodging the question because he doesn't want to blow back.
What?
But
I'll take it. I ain't dodging shit. What's the question?
no, because that's when you cut out. I said like, look, I said like this whole I don't know, like I'll put my own opinions out there, and you can say like, Matt, that's unfair, that's unfounded, right? But like but this entire thing about like this the point of emphasis, the centrality of self care in terms of organizing,
Oh,
right? Putting that at the
right.
very center of everything you do, right? And talking about like emotional labor, also you sound like you sound like a personal libertarian, like an emotional libertarian or something like that. You sound like this whole thing is you. It's based on you, your feelings in this moment. How does this impact me? How does this benefit me? I'm the most oppressed person in the world. This organization should like be towards the liberation of me and me alone. And I think that is incredibly destructive. And I think when it first started, it was phrased and couched in certain ways that you couldn't really argue with. I mean, it was clear. It was like, yes, these are abuses. Yes, this is this. Yes, of course. Yes, we need to be better, more mindful of these things. But then as it has played out and has reached its like logical destination, it's destroyed virtually everything. Like nobody organizes, nobody does anything for anyone else anymore. Just like I shouldn't say nobody does anything, but like it was like the fall of many organizations that would compromise with it, and that just seems to be true to me. But what is your experience?
It's exactly what happened. I think one of the most damaging things is that after so many years of the nonprofit industrial complex just running amok within our organizing spaces and within our communities, it created this whole environment where, um, sorry, I'm just going to give you a little bit better background. It's a little quieter outside than it was inside, and
Okay.
but yeah, going back to what we were saying about the lighting's terrible. Going back to what we were saying about that, when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, a lot of these conversations that have to do with um, with the self care and the self healing and everything else is coming from people that don't necessarily have experience in collective work, in collective struggles, in organ. It's not only is the nonprofit world run rampant, but it's something to where I think it cut off before I said this. But for example, when we're talking about like the anti-imperialist struggles of Venezuela or the Palestinian people or the Cuban people, we're fortunate enough to have that knowledge that we've been studying or we've been paying attention to for a while that somebody else put us onto. But if nobody gave us that information and we just kind of grew up within the nonprofit world and we're hearing all these demonizing things about Venezuela, about Cuba, about socialism, about communism, and now we find ourselves in a space where we do not want to identify with capitalist shit and all these other things, but we don't know any better about all those struggles, then all we have to lean back on is the default setting of what the mainstream media has been hammering into our heads for the longest time. In particular, the most damaging ones are shit like Univision and Jorge Ramos and all the Gusano Miami politics, right? So if we don't have any international solidarity, and if we don't have any understanding of anti-imperialist struggles across the globe, but all of a sudden we're looking at the palette of what we have in front of us, it's easy for a lot of people to just be like, you know what, fuck all that jazz. I'm just going to focus on the self-care part of it because that's the one part that I can take care of. That's the one part that I can focus on. That's the one part that I can feel comfortable with, and that's the one part that I could tell my friends when these crisis moments hit. Those are the things that I can help my friends get through shit by dealing with the self-care portion of it, which
Yeah.
is fine. It's great. It's beautiful, but it leaves out the entirety of a people's response that collectively happens in a lot of these other countries when they grow up with a deep sense of community and outrage towards those situations. The first thing that they happen that spring into action is mutual aid, things of that nature. But I feel that in this country, the quote unquote left doesn't have an understanding of tangible tactics and things that can get done collectively and projects that can get done collectively because they've mostly been blocked out, blacked out, and never mentioned or brought up. That's why everybody was so quick to run to the fucking V for Vendetta Guy Fawkes masks, and they were like, "Yeah, what does that mean? It's some marketable shit." Like, okay, cool, but on the other hand, when I fucking tell stories of these autonomous communities in Mexico and how they build self sustainability and all this other shit, everybody's like, fuck, that's dope. All right. It's not anything super crazy complicated. It's just something that a group of people decided to get together and do. And they're not college educated, university degree holding people. It's the poorest of the poor. So if the poorest of the poor with limited education and resources could build an infrastructure, develop and maintain their own shit, the problem isn't what we do have or don't have around us. It's how we communicate with each other and how we work within organizing or within spaces where we're trying to get things done.
Yeah.
But it comes down to us being the older ones too. We understand this and we see this, but if we're not, and that's what I like so much about your shit, is that your main um base of people that you communicate to, I'm not going to call it fan base or any kind like that, that's kind of a weird term, but like the main base of people that you communicate to are high school kids, college kids, and people within movement struggles across the country, right? And I think that's the strength of where it's at. That's why I've been able to get behind projects like the homie that's doing he wrote a book, 21 Miles of Scenic Beauty, and then Oxnard. And he talks a lot about the gentrification things that have happened, recognizing a little bit of class consciousness, and a lot of these other things. So if his base is also elementary school kids and middle school kids and high school kids, then I'm going to help him move as many coloring books. I'm going to help him make his fucking this. I'm going to help him make his that, because that's the base that needs to understand this fundamentally from the beginning, from a young age, so that they don't just end up falling into the trap of self-healing and self-care type of shit, right? They're all, of course they're going to absorb that, they're going to incorporate that into their regular everyday activities, but it's not going to become the basis of their struggle. It's not going to become the starting point for their organizing, right? So it's communicating these things that maybe the older heads that we learned our shit from can't communicate to the younger generation. So then it falls on us to have to be able to be the ones that facilitate this and put it into tactics and languages that they could understand and they could run with and they could utilize on their own.
Yeah, but I don't think that, I mean, the one thing I would say is I don't think it's an organic thing that's arising out of like the youth to like self care.
It's no,
It
it's definitely not.
there's a loop between people who are what are called social media influencers and people who are in the academy, typically in like fields like American studies, um, certain like sociologists. I mean, certainly people that are involved in these really like jargon laden fields where you don't actually have to prove anything you said, and you just like have an interlocking series of word games that connect to each other, similar to Scrabble, where the words are just opportunistically strung together to score points. I mean, these people don't make any sense. They're not connected to any kind of like arguments. They have no citations. They simply
Yeah.
cite one another and whatever. And so like that, those academics as well as these social media influencers, they have names, they have faces, but they also have ages, and they're mostly 35, 42, 44. I mean, these are the where these phrases that you see so many people that do a lot of things we're talking about, where those phrases actually originate, and actually end up, being repeated by people who are in the younger generation. So I mean, the idea that it's just, oh, you don't want to listen to youth. No, there's a group of people who are around my age range, around your age range, who
Yeah.
who generate this stuff, right? And then it gets picked up. So that's kind of like part of why we formed Taylor Hogbar, was to like, well, if you can do that, we can do it too. And so and so like that's kind of, I don't know, that's the idea. But yeah, but it has material effects. I mean, this entire thing has had material effects on actual organization that actually
And it's
like.
also real easy for them when they have that perspective and they have this. It's real easy for them to be able to disseminate all that information because people like Univision or Mi Gente or fucking all these little hipster Latinx pages, like they'll jump on that shit because it's not conflict. There's no conflict in that. There's no criticism of police in that. There's no criticism of power structures in that. And that's really what they're going to go for. You know, it's kind of it's okay because everybody runs in that same direction, so they're all going to feed off of each other and encourage as much of that as possible because they feel that that's when people are going to use the moments that they can to further their political agendas, right?
Well, I
So
think, absolutely.
I think that that's where it hits harder because it makes you realize that what is considered quote unquote the left in this country is embarrassingly centered versus what we have an understanding of left and right politics are across the globe. But more importantly, because, and we saw it with, and I saw it organizing within the collective, is that when we would organize around issues that had to do with immigration, there was a good amount of nonprofits that would jump on board and get behind us. Even though they didn't agree with our tactics or with our aggressiveness, we were always like the more radical ones and the more, you know, the more unpredictable ones, right? But they would still support us because we were doing things that would draw attention to things that they feel that they could piggyback off of. So that's where we would get support from nonprofits in that sector. On the other hand, once we started criticizing police, when the police brutality shit would pop off, you would see all these nonprofits and all these people that are normally cheering you on going, yeah, fuck yeah. All of a sudden they fall by the wayside because they don't want to be seen as as opposition to the established, whether it be the police departments, the city councils, and all these other things. That's where they drop by. And that's where you really see kind of where people's priorities lie, because it's not that we were talking about like, oh, let's go fucking shoot cops or any shit like that. We're literally just calling for accountability.
Yeah.
Literally trying to propose projects that had to do with accountability, but a lot of organizations, whether they're immigrant organizations or anything else like that, that their population is the one that's their group that they work with are the first ones that are being affected by a lot of this shit. They didn't want to be seen or attached to this shit because it fucks with their funding. It fucks with their funding. It fucks with their public perception. It fucks with all those things. And it makes sense that they would stick with where their common interest is. Where I feel that it's a huge importance on our part is because we're limited on resources, because we're limited on public allies in that sense, is that's why we have to take the resources that we do have and not necessarily be ambulance chasing, but start to fundamentally put a few things behind the people that do fucking get it and the people that do start pushing and that do start making projects a reality, no matter how small they are. But also at the same time, when you do that, it changes your perspective on who and how and where to organize. I have to keep moving because I show up somewhere and then it's fucking noise, and then I set up somewhere else and then it's too much noise. But we'll keep it going. But yeah, it's very fucking difficult because the other part of it is that we have to look at this as a long-term hustle. I can't
Yeah.
view this anymore as a situation where I'm an organizer during this time and then during this time I'm no longer an organizer or something along those lines, right? Like I can't look at it. A lot of people look at organizing and community organizing as something that they either just do on weekends or that they just do during the day or that they just do on when they go to certain meetings. But the truth is, like, in order to be able to have a fucking space, in order to be able to take up space regularly, and in order to not get burned out, and I had to deal a lot with burnout because when I'm organizing, I'm taking time. Not only am I taking time out of my day, but I'm putting my own personal resources behind shit. I never had a job at a nonprofit. I never had a fucking any of these things going on. So I still had to run a business. I still had to run a sign shop, which means that anytime something would happen, I would have to fucking leave customers and clients hanging to go deal and, you know, take time out of my day to go fucking do that because it was a labor of passion. But also I had to find ways to make it sustainable for the long term. Anything that we look at as far as movements of organizing or anti-imperialist movements and things like that, you have the moments of crisis and the moments of just regular everyday shit where you have to sustain it. And the way that I've had to shift my life basically is that, all right, cool, if I'm really down about this shit, this is a marathon, things are going to go on forever. So I need to start making the changes in my everyday life that are going to be in the direction of being able to support movements and being able to be a part of movements, but also at the same time not to where it's fucking draining me constantly of having to be at the front line of everything or having to be the main meeting guy behind this, that, or the other. And just, it's, you got to work with what you got to get to the point of where you want to be. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you have to work with what you got if you want to. Yeah. And if you want the thing, you got to do the thing. Stop hating
Yeah.
everyone.
But the cool thing is, the really cool thing is that even though there's a lot of these wokosos and these wokier than thou motherfuckers,
Yeah.
the really cool thing is that yes, they do have influence and they do have their sphere and they do have their people there. But when you're on an equal playing, when you're in a public space where everybody's there and everybody's like paying attention to what they're doing or they want to see what you're like, you get the opportunity to publicly clown and publicly break their whole image and their whole persona. And that's kind of the important part, right? Because the minute that you can knock that shit off, the minute that you could destroy that perception and you could destroy their politics with factual shit because you're actually responding back to them, whereas normally they can't. Normally, when an influencer is dumping all their shit on social media, they have their fan base that's listening, but there's not necessarily a whole lot of opposition other than a few fucking comments, right?
Mhm.
But when it happens publicly or when it happens in person or when it happens from the counter, that they lose a lot of followers. It ends up destroying them and destroying their credibility a lot more than like you could destroy their credibility in a very short amount of time if it's positioned in the right place. And it's not
Yeah.
about taking their followers, but it's kind of knocking people out of a little slumber. It's like they get used to hearing that and they think that that's all there is because you got to remember a lot of these kids, a lot of these influencers have heavy influence, but it's amongst younger kids, high school kids, college kids. Like those kids are young, they're impressionable.
Yeah.
The minute you could show up to a Mecha meeting and you could kick off some shit and kick some radical shit out and do this, that, and the other and talk about other moments of this, then they'll be like, oh, fuck. All right, that's dope. That's what's up. I'm trying to be a part of that too. Like, they're, in a sense, they're doing a lot of our work for us,
Yeah.
but they're going to do our work. But if we never jump in to either hijack or to communicate or to do, if we don't do our part, then they're
Yeah.
doing all the work and they're gonna keep. But at the end of the day, their shit's gonna fizzle out because once you get to a certain point, if you're growing and you're maturing and you're all about the self-care shit, like there's no end game to that. There's no end game. It's a constant thing, and it's very limited in its scope of what it can accomplish.
Yeah.
But
I
the minute
almost
you
want to
start
point out
seeing
that
other options, you're gonna run with another fucking option too.
yeah, I also want to point out these people aren't exactly licensed therapists either. I mean, so this is not like
Yeah,
pushing any goal. I mean, this not,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so okay, cool. So like let's talk about the lab though. What are some of the organizing projects that you've been in, let's say just pre-COVID, like before everything got shut down? Like what were some of the
That's
things, what were
cool.
some of the campaigns that you
Pre-COVID,
involved
we're on paper we're a sign shop, but we're not really a sign shop. It's just kind of a personal shop that we fucking run around and do whatever we want out of. It's a little bit on the outskirts of Oxnard and Ventura, so it's a bit of a drive for friends, but it's a good little getaway. So not only have we done a bunch of fundraiser things out of here, not only have we helped organize and build a bunch of like brands or people that are trying to start their small businesses out of here, but we've been a safe space and a meeting space for a really long time, whether it be trainings for ice actions, whether it be planning meetings, whether it just be bringing organizers together that end up meeting each other for the first time around here. And because of the graffiti and because of the paint and because of all the things that we're into in the stand-up comedy, the important part for me is to be able to bring in the left-leaning, regular, everyday people that are in that world, whether it be the world of graffiti or whether it be the world of people that go to stand-up comedy, being able to pull from there towards and connect them with some of these organizers, because that's the most important part. Everybody compartmentalizes everything, but they don't realize that all this shit's the same shit. All this shit's mixed in together. And if there's one fortunate thing is that in Ventura County we are drivers of culture. We are steering our local culture in a certain direction. And that's something that I didn't appreciate for a long time. I just did it because we did it. But now that I'm understanding things I've been analyzing and studying things on a large scale and smart scale from a different perspective, that I'm looking at and be like, okay, there's a responsibility on us of being local influencers of culture and local drivers of culture. And we've built up a shitload of social capital that we're just starting to figure out how we're going to flex that as these crises get worse. So we've always been a meeting space. We've always had resources. We've always let people come here and print. But more importantly, the most important part, and I think it's the most important part for organizers, is that a lot of times we spend so much time in the trenches, and there's so much trauma that's involved in the work that we do, or there's so much of that it gets overwhelming. The important part for us is that we've also been able to have this be the same physical space where we work, but we work um, in a very casual way. We work in a very happy way. We work in a very we party together too. We party, we smoke, we kick it, and I think those parts are very important because that's where organizers build solidarity. If it's funny because there's some nonprofits that we'd work with here and there, and what I tell them a lot is like, "Yo, you need to come party with us this Saturday. It's a friend's birthday. I know you don't know them. Come party. A lot of other organizer friends are going to be there because that's where you build that's where you build the real fucking solidarity when you clock out of your regular 9 to 5 nonprofit job and you come hang out with these people on a regular day-to-day basis that you wouldn't normally hang out. And the only thing you have in common is that you know them through the fucking nonprofit you work at some organizing something that might lightly have to do with tenants unions. But then here at the party, we'll have tenants that we help form their own unions. We'll have some family members of victims of police brutality that we've known for a few years that we've become friends with. So it's like this environment where everybody has a history of we met through some type of struggle, but we're all friends and we kick it and we hang out. And that's what I try to do more of, is surround my people with those people so that at least when they know that they show up here to this environment, they know that it's a bunch of people that have a wide variety of experiences and thought processes that move in a more left leaning direction. I try to make it very nurturing. I try to make it as nurturing as possible.
Yeah, yeah, that's a wonderful, beautiful thing. So tell us what's on the horizon. What are some of the big
The horizon.
Yeah, yeah.
So on the horizon, what we've been able to do because of this Corona shit, I'm incredibly proud of it, but I'm still managing how I'm going to make it public or how I'm going to let it be known.
Don't
when this Corona shit happened,
don't be put on the spot by me.
We'd already been working towards setting up my girlfriend's mom's sewing operation, for example, because she got laid off. So she immediately started making masks. Meanwhile, I redesigned it. I had to figure something out where we could do a full color print on the front of the mask. I had to figure out a bunch of things. But because everything was shut down, I wasn't going to be able to do any regular work. So what I figured would be the easiest thing to do is to throw all my energy towards mask production. And if I could set up some type of scalable operation where we could sell a ton of masks, I knew that we would be fine long term. We would be fine short term and we would be fine long term. So I burned myself out. This project is only a month old, but in the month that it's going, there's no signs of stopping. And what we've been able to do is a sewing operation. We've encouraged, my girlfriend's mom still sews. I figured out how to cut large chunks of fabric. She sews. There's another older lady in Santa Paula that sews for us. And there's 2 ladies that show up here. 2 of my mom's friends that show up here during the week and the mornings, and they sew for us. So all of them are producing blank white masks. And those blank white masks are masks that they're masks that we just turn around and we do full color printing graphics on. And when we do full color printing graphics on them, it opens it up to where we could work with any artwork that we want, all the artwork that we want, and what we've been able to do is, so they sew the masks. Then I have a bunch of other friends that don't know how to sew anything, but they know how to use a heat press. They know how to use a printer. They know how to do some light design work. So what they do is they show up and I teach them how to prepare and work efficiently and make their masks and do that. And then we have other friends that don't know how to do any of the computer work, but they got a nice social network of barbershops and other businesses that they go visit. So we've been able to connect all 3 of these and have everybody start to share information. Everybody gets paid per piece of masks that they produce or that they help produce. And every mask has a different phase that it has to go through to be completed. So if one day somebody shows up and all they do is print out all the sheets of the designs that they need,
and maybe they prepare the little packets to go into the heat press, but then they're done for the day and they don't want to work anymore. All they got to do is write down how many packets they prepared, and they're going to get paid for that. And then the next person could show up, see those packets there, and be like, all right, cool, I'm just going to pick up where they left off and then start heat pressing all the packets. And if they say I'm done with this, or they don't finish the packets, they just write down how many they finish and they're off to do their thing. And then somebody else could show up and be like, okay, all these masks are done being printed, they just need elastics. So then they'll run all the elastics through. And then so it's dissectable at any point in time, but also this means sometimes that with the two twin girls that are the main ones that are helping me produce masks right now, that are printing on the actual masks, they've been with me for 3 years. We've been training them because originally they wanted to learn how to do a clothing line, and because we let a lot of friends print their clothing line stuff out of here, they've been working with us for a while. But now they have the setup operation at their house. They have a heat press at their house, they have the printer at their house. So they get the designs from me, they print it out. All they get from me is the blank masks, the ink, the paper. They do their thing. They know how much I'm paying per mask because I'm paying everybody per how much they produce. So they give me completely finished and ready to go masks with whatever artwork it is that I either asked of them. But then also they could turn around and sell the blank masks because they're getting the blank masks from me. They could sell them to whoever else it is that they want to sell them to as well. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build this ever expandable and scalable, small, compartmentalized, but also interchangeable production process across the board. And the good thing about it is that it's been very profitable right now. Everybody works at their pace. So that means that, for example, if I'm heat pressing and preparing packs and I work slow and I just decide to do one, I'm paying myself $10 an hour. But if I learn how to work efficiently and do both of these things at the same time, even at a medium pace, I'm paying myself like $35 an hour. And then shit, if you move fast, then you're paying yourself like $60 an hour. But within a few hours, you could do the work that normally you would get paid for spending like a day or two working at $15 an hour. But within a few hours you get it done, and then you get to go home, and then you get to show up and do whatever you want tomorrow, right? So I'm still working out the little details, but luckily right now we've been able to get the whole process pretty efficient and to the point where it's kind of on autopilot now. All I have to do now is cut fabric once a week for everybody, because then like my girlfriend, because her mom has a sewing operation over there, she shows up, she drops off blank masks, and then she takes a large pile of the fabric that's already cut ready to be sewn and takes that back to her mom and then gives me a count and I pay everybody out and everything like that. So it's very scalable, but also what I'm trying to do is figuring out how to make it more efficient. Then on the other hand, I have friends that are showing up. They know the wholesale pricing that I'm giving them, but also I'll front them like 50 masks or 100 masks. So I'll be like, here, if you want to get in on this, let's make whatever masks. You can look at all the designs. You can make whatever masks. We'll make whatever masks you want. I'll teach you how to assemble them yourself. If you want to, you could eventually get your heat press and the things like that. But if you want to, for right now, take these masks. Don't give me a dime. Either advertise them on your Instagram, sell them on your thing, or go door to door, or go visit some businesses, pull in some fucking clients from some of those businesses, and you manage that account. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to physically keep my face and the shop's public face out of what this mask production operation is, because the minute people find out that Leo at the lab is making them, they'll be like, oh, I know Leo, I'll just go over there and fucking have him make 2 or 3 masks of whatever. I'm trying to keep that out. I'm trying to funnel everybody through the artists that we're working with as far as their artwork goes. I'm trying to funnel everybody through our friends that are reaching out to dispensaries and doing all that work, and everybody else. That way it keeps them employed, it keeps money in their pocket, but also it gives them the responsibility of having to manage some accounts, and it keeps me a little more stress-free to where all I got to do is keep cutting up fabric, and I know that everybody's ethically getting paid for their work across the entire spectrum of the operation. The bills are being covered, and eventually what I would love to see is I would love to see this turn into a worker-owned cooperative, which I'm more than happy to turn over and just be one of the members of the cooperative that runs this. But also at the same time, I got options. If I encourage everybody to have their own operation at home, then I just end up feeding everybody blank masks and paper and ink, and then I just end up being a training center or a training facility for that too. I'm either way, or it could be a combination of both. I don't fucking know. But The other huge advantage is that we've been doing artist merch for the last year because I was trying to get away from doing car wraps. And one of the artists that we were able to work with, fortunately, um, she had no other option because even though she prints a lot of her own shit with her small operation that she has out of her pad, she moved out of a warehouse. She moves so much goddamn merch. Um, but with this, she was able to see kind of how we work and how we operate over the course of the last year. And now we're having conversations about me working a lot closer with her. But in order for me to be able to do that, I have to start letting go of some things here, which is kind of what helped out with the whole mask setup, because now I know all the bills are covered. Now I know I don't have to be taking on customer work of any other type of customer. I've been turning down customers left and right because I'm telling them I'm backed up doing masks and I want to kind of focus on that. So it's something that I've been chasing for a very long time that just kind of fell into our lap. Both situations, it's kind of a win-win. And the project continues. The artist that I'm fortunate enough to work with, she's got heavy influence, and she's also very much one of these people that are trying to move in a harder left direction but doesn't really have any points of reference or doesn't really have any tangible influence around her of like some practical shit that could be done, and have her be like, oh yeah. So the conversations that we've been able to have are really cool, and that's our future. You still there, Otto?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. I'm here.
Okay,
I,
my bad.
I made a corny joke, and the timing might have passed on it. I was talking
Oh,
about.
my bad.
You remember?
I
Do you
should have
remember?
kept shit short.
Do you remember Head of the Class?
The
The show?
movie?
No, the show Head of the Class. It was like a
I
TV show,
don't.
and they had this song called like "The Future's So Bright I Have to Wear Shades" or something like that. Yeah, it was ridiculous. Anyways, I don't know. It's just like '80s kid doing things. No, man. Sounds like the future is bright, man. Sounds like the sun is on the horizon where it should be. Like, sounds like your future is very bright, and you got a lot coming up. So, yeah, it's between the two of these talks. It's been about an hour. So, is there any words of advice you have for people in this period of time? Like, who want to get into organizing, but maybe feel as though I'm not the right one. I'm not the person. I can't do it.
I feel incredibly, incredibly fucking strong about tenant unions. Um, we've been fortunate enough to help form some tenant unions, but a lot of the bullshit issues that we've had to deal with and that we're gonna have to deal with in the next few months, given this fucking crisis, can start to begin to get addressed just by talking to your neighbor and starting to form some fucking tenant unions. It's it's the fundamental it's the fundamental base that I feel, if it was strong enough in this country, we would be able to address a shit ton of issues, from the police brutality issues to a lot of the class struggle issues to like things like minimum wage issues, but also because our people as a whole, especially low income people, but people of color, were packed into a lot of apartment complexes, which means that it lends itself to help it lends itself and makes it a little bit easier to be able to organize people around some common causes. Because if one apartment complex has a shitty property management company, then that's one common enemy that everybody fucking has, and one common enemy that if everybody came to an agreement on, you could cause some real fucking damage against, and especially in these next few fucking months with the economy fucking tanking the way it is. This economy was on life support already anyways. It's just the corona just pulled the plug on this shit. But I feel very strongly about tenant unions. Very, very strongly about tenant unions.
You heard it here first, tenant union. So thank you, Leo Martinez, for your time. It's been a real illuminating conversation, and I'll let you get back to running around and going to different rooms for no apparent reason.
I was trying to find a quiet space to sit down.
The
sorry.
Right now is perfect. I don't know why you didn't go there to begin with.
Yeah, now I'm here, but the problem is because the electrician cut the power, that's when the router went out earlier. And then I came in here first, and then I was like, it's fucking dark. And then I was outside because there was noise on this side of the shop. It's just, we're good. We're good.
Where are you now? What is that? It looked like you walked into like a.
It's a modified storage container bin that I turned into like a little chill room, but then now I just end up staying here a lot.
All right, well, cool. It was good talking to Leo. That looked like you walked into one of those like a train or like a the.
Oh yeah, because I was gonna hang and build some shit up there too. But these are a lot of my shirts. This is my collection of shirts that sometimes you get a bunch of cool shirts and I don't want to sometimes when I get a lot of cool shirts I don't want to wear them out, but also I don't want them just hanging out in my closet either. So I figured I might as well litter the walls with them.
Do you have a luchador mask up there? Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah, I got a few of them.
When did you get into that?
Mexico City, man.
Did you make those or did you buy those? Are those like
Nah, I bought those. I bought them in Mexico City.
would you be capable of making luchador masks?
Shit, the problem with the luchador mask is that it would have to be those fabrics. I need to figure out those fabrics. And because those fabrics come in a bunch of like specific colors, I would have to have a design already way ahead of time. And then probably run it by the seamstresses, see if the seamstresses could definitely do it. They definitely do that type of quality work. They could crank out some quality shit. They're making luchador masks, face masks, face covers. They're making those in Mexico. The dudes that normally are out there making the luchador masks that they sell at the swap meets and everything, they're
Yeah.
making half ones too. I saw a fucking video on it. It's incredible. They look really good.
All right, somebody wants to know a website for your shirts.
We don't have one. And
That's
we're
embarrassing.
probably not. No, we're probably going to put up a website for the masks. The truth is that we've gotten overwhelmed with the orders of masks, so that's what's kind of made it hard too, and that's kind of what made it easier for us to just kind of like hunker down and do shit. But if you want to get some of our masks, you could go to the homegirl Veronica Valadez. She's Arte Yol. I forgot how to pronounce it, but Veronica Valadez, all the masks that she has offered up on her operation on her page is the masks that we're making and that we're cranking out. Addiction Distribution is another brand. They're cranking out they're selling the masks that we're also producing. And this week we're barely going to be rolling out with a few other brands the masks that we're making for them. But that's just because we finally got caught up on orders to where I was telling everybody, yo, just pause right now. Pause. Let us get caught up on these orders. And then y'all can start announcing that you guys have masks too. So we will be putting that out this week.
Well, good luck to you, and we'll be talking soon. The wheels in my head are turning, not for masks, but like the wheels in my head are turning for some other stuff. So I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
We'll make something happen, Bato. All right, thank you very, very much. It's a fucking honor to be on here. You're a badass motherfucker. I love everything you're doing with Tele Jaguar. I fucking love that you've constantly been aggressively on the front lines of back and forthing with motherfuckers and being out at these schools and kicking shit with kids and building your base from there. I feel that that's the most vital shit and the most important one. And I got a lot of love for you. I got a lot of love for you, man. So take care. Anything you need, I'm here for you.
Appreciate it. Talk soon.
All right, Vato. Peace.